So I'm just going to go a bit into the structure of how I actually put up the ceiling. With the minivans, you don't have a nice flat roof either. Most vans you actually don't, but there's actually nothing structural really on the van besides two places in the ceiling that you can bolt anything to. So I don't know if it was smart or maybe just by fluke that I figured out how to kind of structure the walls on. It's pretty tricky because minivans are actually made to be aesthetically pleasing inside, so there's weird curves everywhere. It's not a nice simple box. So I'm just going to kind of show you where I ended up bolting some of the wood pieces in so that I could put up the pine ceiling. I'll do my best to show you. It's kind of a really tricky thing, especially going around the doors, because they have sliding doors where most of the cargo vans and stuff, they have actual doors that just open out. So you kind of have to work around all the bearings and the sliding, I guess, mechanisms and stuff. So I'll show you that right now. So with the van, there's kind of two bars when everything's not in, which I hopefully got in the videos before, but I don't know if you can see this lovely mark here and this one here. I just wanted to show those before I finish up all the pine molding on it. But basically there's kind of structural beams that run across kind of here and back there. That when you roll your van would obviously keep its shape, and it's just a safety thing. But what you can do is there's basically like little holes in them that I ran bolts down, and I ended up drilling holes into a 1x4, and then I bolted those up underneath here. So you can see I basically run all the nails for the roof into that. So underneath this there's a board right here, and then there's also another board that's sitting like right here above it. And in order to kind of get this little dip, which is kind of a pain in the butt, but this is super important because underneath this is where all the door tracks are. You can't really mess with that unless if you want your door to either, I guess, fall off or not open again. So you kind of have to get fancy and work around it. What I ended up doing is I built little 45-degree angle brackets into it. So there's a bracket right behind here. When I go to the other side, I'll try to show you. But basically this bracket is holding this in, and I've used another little 90-degree bracket to build out this bottom bit here too. So you can kind of see there's like a ledge here, and on the other side here, there's a ledge here. So on the back side of them, this is where you kind of just need to build this gap is basically what you're trying to do. So that when you go to close the door is actually running alongside that. Sadly though, of course, all vans, they're not square, so you have to get kind of I don't know if you can see it, this fancy angle. One of the best tricks I learned, and I hope it helps you out, is the blue foam that I use in almost everything for the van. Looks a little like this. I ended up using it as guides because you can't just sit there and mark a piece of wood with this exact round angle unless if you're some professional carpenter, which I'm definitely not. So I actually ended up cutting some of these pieces that would fit in. So for instance, like this kind of molding I did here, this was actually kind of the jig for it. So if that helps at all, that helped me kind of use it as a guide. So I'd place it down onto the pieces of wood and actually trace it. So luckily I got this one right the first time, but the other door took a lot longer to get. But that is the main structural, kind of running across the top where I showed you right where this line is here, and then the other one there. So that's running there, and I'll go a little more into that when I actually put the ceiling on, but that is the main bit of how this ceiling is put together right now. Up the sides is a totally different thing. There is actually nothing on the sides here you can bolt to, sadly. It's just kind of the way they are. So I've insulated in behind these windows, but then I ended up doing the same sort of thing I did to work around the top of the van. And there's actually a bracket that runs kind of right down here, and then another one that runs down the back there. And they're just kind of behind here is same thing, a little bracket with a 45. So then I could have something just to connect it to. I'll flip the video around and show you the other side just because I actually had one of them, you can see the gap of light right there. I actually had one of them pop off, so I can kind of show you what the structure was behind it. On the back side of the van here, it's a little easier to see. This one did pop off just Obviously a little bit of shaking with the van, needed longer screws and maybe a bit of glue. But you can kind of see there's like a bracket right in there that's holding it to this wall, which I'll show you how this wall went on in a second here. So there's one here, and you can see there's one right here, just a little further down there. So same thing, it's kind of bolted top and bottom, but that's helping this wall, which is the back of it. That's how it's actually stuck on. And same thing, you can see kind of the track across the door, and you can see right in back there, there's one of those little 90-degree angle brackets placed in there. So there's a wall behind each of the driver's seats. I decided to put those in and kind of go with this layout. One, because the van is quite tiny. I'll show you the measurements. Basically from wheel well to the other wheel well on the other side, you only get 4 feet. And from front to back, I think it's something like 78 inches. So you don't really get the option of having a bed going horizontal across the back like you see so many other vans have. So when I did that, I kind of wanted to have, I guess, for safety of things flying forward, and also to keep everything squared off. Once you can square things off, it's much easier to build. So I made these lovely little walls. I kind of took them as a bit of insulation as well, just to have that extra, I guess, lock you in a little more. But basically what it is it's a 1/2-inch piece of pine here, and then I've basically done the front and back with some of the nice pine slat. So they kind of just go down. And then they're bolted, you can kind of see right in there. They're bolted with these steel braces. So they're in there, and that's screwed right into the floor, which obviously has a few layers of wood in it. So this is pretty sturdy. The only thing to be smart about is at the front seat here. Sorry, I threw all the cushions there. Make sure you leave enough room that you can move your seat forward and back. Hopefully you're not the only person ever driving your van, but some people are taller, so leave some room. It's also nice because I'm going to put some little hooks here, and then I can actually, use every bit of space and hang a few coats in behind. But it looks kind of nice. You can see it here. Looks kind of nice to have it sectioned off from the front and a little more finished. And then from the back, kind of just looks like nice walls. And I've got little places for artwork, which is always nice. But yeah, so that's kind of a nice structural thing. And then it also makes your van straight again, so you can actually put things like these lovely boxes and actually square them up.